Emily Carter's hand shook as she adjusted the strap of her evening gown. Not from cold. Not from nerves alone. But from the sense that someone was watching her, a presence so heavy it made her chest tighten and her pulse thunder in her ears. The Carlton Hotel ballroom glittered like a winter wonderland, filled with laughter, clinking glasses, and the subtle hum of ambition. Crystal chandeliers rained light over gowns and tuxedos, each guest dazzling in their wealth. And yet, amidst all that splendor, Emily felt invisible, and vulnerable. Her husband, Nathan Carter, was across the room, leaning into his familiar role, charming, witty, cruel in public without anyone noticing. He was a master of disguise, and Emily had learned to fear his humor. Tonight, she knew, he would turn that humor on her. Emily. Nathan's voice sliced through the music, sharp and deliberate. Why don't you tell everyone your little wine story from last week? The one where you couldn't tell a Merlot from a Pinot Noir. Gasps and polite chuckles rippled across the room. Nathan leaned closer, mimicking her voice with exaggerated faltering, dragging the laughter out like a slow, cruel blade. Emily felt her stomach drop, her throat tighten. Every eye was on her. She could almost hear her dignity shattering in pieces at her feet. But then, something froze the moment. Something she didn't expect. A man, standing alone in the far corner of the room, detached from the glittering crowd, watching. His face was partially shadowed, but his eyes, steady, intense, unyielding, seemed to pierce right through her. And in that instant, Emily realized, she knew those eyes. She had known them once. A memory she had buried deep, locked behind years of fear and absence, clawed its way back. Her pulse raced, not from embarrassment, but from recognition. The man wasn't just any guest. He was her father. But impossible. He had vanished from her life when she was 10, leaving only a note that promised he would return when the world was safe, a promise she had spent years convincing herself was a lie. Now he was here. Watching. Waiting. The laughter around her became a blur. Nathan continued, unaware of the storm gathering in that corner. Come on, Emily, lighten up. We're all friends here, he said, flashing his practiced grin. But Emily's eyes were locked on her father's, her heart hammering with a mixture of fear, hope, and disbelief. Her father's gaze did not waver. Slowly, he started walking toward the center of the room. Each step was measured, deliberate, and it felt like the entire ballroom held its breath. Emily's knees weakened. Could this really be happening? Could he have truly come back after all these years? As he reached the edge of the crowd, Nathan finally noticed him. Confusion flickered across his face, then irritation. Who are you? Nathan asked, his tone sharp, protective. He had never seen Emily's father, and he assumed anyone approaching was a threat to his carefully curated image of power. Emily's father smiled faintly, not with the warmth of a stranger, but with the quiet authority of someone who knew the weight of absence. I am her father, he said simply, his voice calm yet commanding enough to silence the room. And I've been watching. A hush fell over the ballroom. Guests turned to see who this man was, sensing the tension in the air. Nathan, realizing the shift in energy, tried to mask his panic with a laugh. Her father? You mean that man who disappeared 10 years ago? Emily's father nodded. Yes. And I believe it's time for some truth. Nathan's grin faltered. I don't understand. Emily could no longer bear the humiliation. She straightened, taking a step forward, feeling the power of the man who had once protected her, now standing beside her invisibly all these years, return to her side. You don't understand, she said, her voice steady despite the tremor inside. You don't understand me. And you've never understood that cruelty is not charm. Her father's gaze softened as he placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. The touch was grounding, familiar, and filled with the love she had longed for in every lonely night. It's okay, Emily. He's about to learn what respect looks like, he said. Nathan's face turned pale, his confidence evaporating. The ballroom watched, spellbound, as Emily's father subtly revealed his identity not just as a loving father but as a billionaire businessman whose wealth and influence surpassed even the most powerful people present. In a quiet but firm tone, he addressed Nathan, "You have belittled her in front of friends, colleagues, and strangers alike. But your judgment of her character will no longer go unchecked. Emily is not only my daughter, she is a woman of integrity, kindness, and strength. Values you have mocked, yet she embodies." A ripple ran through the room. Nathan, finally realizing he had misjudged everything, tried to respond, but the words faltered on his tongue. Emily's father continued, his authority absolute, "Tonight, the only approval that matters is hers. Not yours. Not anyone else's. And I will make sure she never has to endure this humiliation again." Tears pricked Emily's eyes, not from shame, but from relief. For the first time in years, she felt seen, protected, and valued for who she truly was. The ballroom seemed to hold its breath, then slowly erupted into murmurs of admiration. People began seeing Emily not as Nathan's trophy wife, but as an individual whose grace and patience had quietly commanded respect. Nathan's power crumbled. Invitations he had relied upon, influence he had wielded, all seemed insignificant in comparison to the quiet dignity Emily now radiated. He stammered, lost for words, as the man who had once been absent but never truly gone continued to stand beside his daughter, a silent but unyielding pillar of strength. Then, Emily did something unexpected. She smiled, not a timid smile, but one of confidence and liberation. "I forgive you," she said softly to Nathan, her voice carrying through the quiet. "Not for you, but for me. I will no longer let your cruelty define my life." Her father nodded, a proud, almost imperceptible smile on his lips. The guests were captivated. Even strangers in the room felt the shift, the weight of compassion and integrity had entered the air, and it was palpable. Later that evening, Emily and her father walked to the terrace, leaving the glimmering chaos of the ballroom behind. Snow had begun to fall again, soft flakes landing gently on the marble floor. The city lights twinkled below, but Emily felt a different kind of sparkle inside, one born of freedom, love, and renewed hope. "Why now?" she asked quietly. Her father took her hand, holding it with the same tenderness he had decades ago. "Because you needed to know that even when the world feels cruel and unkind, there are those who see your worth. And because you have always deserved to be treated with respect and love, no matter what anyone else says." Emily's heart swelled. She realized then that humiliation, cruelty, and years of absence could never erase the power of genuine love and protection. Nathan had underestimated the strength of compassion, the impact of being truly seen, and the courage it takes to stand up for oneself. As she looked at her father, she understood the deepest lesson of the night: dignity is not granted by wealth, charm, or social standing. It is claimed through kindness, resilience, and the unwavering recognition of one's own worth. The snow fell heavier, blanketing the city in a serene white, and Emily felt a profound peace settle over her. For the first time in her life, she wasn't living in fear of mockery or rejection. She was free. And she knew, without a doubt, that the best chapters of her life were yet to come. And somewhere in the ballroom, Nathan's laughter had vanished. Because he had finally understood, the only power that mattered was the one Emily had claimed for herself. And in that realization, the world seemed brighter, gentler, and full of promise.